Hello everyone, thank you for joining. Thank you to those who are putting aside the time to join us in consciousness. And hello to those of you who are listening to the recording. A very warm welcome. It's a blessing to be here with you. A blessing to be here with you as Gloria and I embark on this year-long journey, contemplating extracts from this book, The Government of Eden, published by Acropolis Books and available on Amazon. It's a compilation of extracts taken from talks given over the years by Joel Goldsmith. So for the structure of today's meeting, we'll start with an initial brief meditation, and then I'll be reading 3 extracts from the first chapter, and I'll intersperse those with 3 meditations. At the end of the very final meditation, I'll say thank you, and then we'll leave this gathering in silence, which is as per Joel's wishes. Okay, so let's be still now for our initial meditation. As I say, at the end of the first meditation, I'll say thank you, and then we'll start with the reading. Okay, let's be still. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to start by reading an extract right at the very start of the book, titled An Invitation. And Joel says, "Only the very courageous can embark on the spiritual journey, and only those of great strength and vision can hope to continue on this path. Nearly 20 centuries ago, the Master made it clear that the way is straight and narrow, and few there be that enter. That this is true is borne out by the fact that up to the present time, very few have been able to remain on the spiritual path and continue to go forward. It is not easy to surmount superstition, ignorance, and fear, and, despite prejudice and previous failures, to set forth in search of new horizons. We cannot adopt new ideas while still clinging to the outworn beliefs of the past. We must be willing to relinquish our old concepts. That is where the courage comes in, and the daring. Every year will be the result of what we make of it, the result of something that we put into operation this minute. It will not do to wait until midnight tonight. It will not do to wait until tomorrow. The kind of year that we are to experience must be started now, in this moment, by an act of decision, and each one must make that decision for himself. As we move on into chapter 1, he continues to say, the life we live as infinite way students is really not a religious life, as religion is usually thought of. It is a contemplative life, the life in which we ponder, meditate, and cogitate upon reality. It is a life in which we commune with our inner or spiritual self. It is a life which, by means of receptivity, makes us responsive to impartations from the infinite to the individual. It is a life in which we look to the divine source for our good, a life in which we are not enslaved by words. Too often, a word gets its grip on us, and then we are victims of that word, such as he, she, or it. In fact, all evil is bound up in these words. But what we must do is to look beyond every he, she, and it in the world and realize this is a contemplation. God is the source of my good. God is the source of my supply. God is the cement of my relationships. Our birthright of freedom. Are we not heirs of God? Do we not have jurisdiction over our lives by the grace of God? Are we not servants of God? And if we are, how could we ever become servants of man or slaves of man or slaves of a system? These things can only creep up on us by our consent. And the only way we give our consent is by ignoring our relationship with God. Our freedom must be spiritually attained, spiritually realized, spiritually maintained, and then nothing can enter that defileth or maketh a lie. Nothing can enter from without. No powers external to us can operate in our consciousness or upon our lives except by our ignorance of spiritual truth, spiritual identity, and the fact that freedom isn't a physical thing, it's a spiritual entity. Okay, shall we be still again for a second meditation? Thank you. Okay, continuing on from the same chapter, he says, "Now, be assured of this. If you hold freedom to be something of a physical nature that can be given to you or taken from you, so will it be unto you in accordance with your faith. But in that moment when you realize only by the grace of God do we have freedom, only by the grace of God do we have God's government, and that this is not at the mercy of man whose breath is in his nostrils, that this cannot be given to us by princes, nor taken from us by kings or potentates. Only by the realization of the spiritual nature of freedom can we attain it and maintain it. Freedom is not a condition of mind or body. Freedom is a condition of the soul. If we do not find our freedom in soul, we will find only limitation and bondage in our experience. Freedom cannot be given to a nation or a race of people. Freedom must first be realized in individual being, and then some measure of that freedom can be shared with those who are in need of it. Nothing external to us can limit or hinder us, because our freedom must first take place in our consciousness. And this no one can prevent, because, fortunately, no one can read our thoughts, look into our consciousness, or know what is going on in our soul. So it is that wherever we are, at home, on the street, or in business, we can make a transition from the slavery of the senses to the freedom of the soul. It all takes place within our consciousness. The message of the infinite way revealed to me at the beginning that God does not set us free. It is the consciousness of God in us that makes us free. Where the consciousness of the presence of God is not, there is bondage. There is sin, false appetite, disease, lack, limitation, and man's inhumanity to man. But where the consciousness of God is present, not where God is present, God is omnipresent. Where the consciousness of God is present, there is liberty, freedom, wholeness, and completeness. And this is another contemplation. God life and my life are one, inseparable, indivisible, and incorporeal. Not at the mercy of man whose breath is in his nostrils, not at the mercy of princes, but a divine life lived under God. I and my Father are one, incorporeal and invisible. I live and move and have my being in God. I live and have my being in spirit, in the soul of God, in the Spirit of God. I am hid with Christ in God. This is my fortress, this is my dwelling place, to live, move, and have my being in spirit, under spiritual government. Okay, I invite you to be still again with me for a few moments. Let's pause and be still. Thank you. So for our final extract today, continuing in chapter 1, Joel says, by not consciously taking hold of our own life and opening ourselves to God government, we leave ourselves to the government of this world. That means we accept ourselves as a statistic. We are 100 people, and out of these 100 people, so many must die each day, and so many must become ill. So many must have an accident. And the question mark is, which one of us will this happen to? Which one of us will that happen to, and on what day? The inevitability of sin, disease, death, lack, and limitation is always present for the simple reason that by not consciously accepting the government of God, we unconsciously or subconsciously accept anything that is blowing around in the air. And therefore, If a newspaper headline tells of a coming epidemic, then so many immediately prepare unconsciously for it. If the newspapers or radio are full of fear about coming world conditions, that fear operates in consciousness to set up ills of one nature or another. So it is that actually the human race, each individual, is an antenna receiving whatever is broadcast of the world's fears, of the world's sins, of the world's false appetites and diseases. And men and women in the human experience have no defense against the acceptance of the suggestions of the world. The three-dimensional man, the man of earth, lives in a world circumscribed by his own limited concept of himself and his world, believing that that is all the world there is, and that in order to survive it is necessary to lie, cheat, and to use all the tricks of the trade, even up to and including warfare. To him, might is a right and normal way, and anything else is a sign of weakness. This is the life lived by the man who is ignorant of the truth that there is another realm of consciousness which he could enter and there find a more glorious life, not one lived by might or by power, a world in which he could live at peace with his neighbours, with his competitors, and with all other races and religions on the face of the earth. As a human being, as the man of earth, the natural man who is not under the law of God, you have no dominion in this world whatsoever. You are acted upon by weather, by climate, by food, if you want to accept it, even by the stars above you. You are acted upon, and this is not the natural way of living, the spiritual way. The spiritual way of life gives you dominion. God gave you dominion over this entire earth and everything beneath and everything above. Now, to live under grace, you must make a conscious effort, through knowing the truth, to bring yourself back to the position where you have dominion. Okay, we'll conclude there for today and have our final meditation. And I invite you to consciously rest with me now in the one I that I am. At the end of the meditation, as I'll say thank you, and then we'll leave this gathering in silence. Let's be still. Thank you.